and welcome to the For Her Empire podcast. I'm your host, Abby Welcher, and in this podcast, we address the personal and the business issues that female entrepreneurs face in their day-to-day lives. My guest today is Dierdre Tshien. Ha! Got it right.
Nailed it.
She's the founder of Growth Boss, and today is actually quite an interesting topic that we tend to ask a lot, which is how to actually build your audience when you're just starting your e-commerce business. Now, although Deidre will be talking about e-commerce businesses, I'm sure there are a few things that we can pick up for other business types. Okay, so I almost butchered your name. So let's have you pronounce your name the right way and tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's funny. My name is not, to be fair, it's not the easiest to pronounce. So you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not actually from the States. I'm from Australia. And so we pronounce my name Dierdre. And that's how my parents pronounce it as well. But over here in the States, since I've moved over, I've been used to being called Dierdre. That's how they pronounce my name, Dierdre. Yeah. So it's not just you. It's not, it's not an easy
actual effort in this. Okay. I put into this. I was this close.
But yes, thank you so much, Abigail. So I guess a little bit about me. I started my first business over 8 years ago now. It's crazy how time flies. It was actually in hospitality. So I have brick and mortar businesses in Sydney still running. So dessert bars and burger restaurants. And sort of, fast forward, I've, in the meantime, I've started a fashion tech business, my own e-commerce business, a sort of digital media agency, and now here I am coaching, e-commerce entrepreneurs how to essentially find, convert their audience and, grow their businesses. And really the core of my strategy is around how do you do it using the power of human connection, tribe building, and sales funnels. That's kind of, really the core that I found, especially for businesses who are just starting. That is really the main pillars that they need to be leveraging. Human connection, tribe building, and sales funnels is incredibly important. So let me go into a little bit about what that means. So I know that, and I'm going to be sort of probably being a bit contrary in some of my thoughts, because I know that, because I've spoken to so many e-commerce business owners, and I know that one of the reasons why some people might go into e-commerce is because it's well, all I have to do is have a bunch of products, set up my online store, and then that's it, right? Maybe run some ads, but I don't have to think about being the face of it. I don't have to think about going out and actually finding my audience. I don't have to connect with people. And unfortunately, I'm kind of here to say that you do. I know, because I'm a classic introvert. I also struggle with
that stuff. Exhausting.
Exactly. I'm just can you just leave me alone? I'm just going to be in my cave, doing my thing. Yeah. Exactly. But unfortunately, I've had to learn to also myself come out of my own shell, because connecting with, we are all, as humans, no matter how introverted or extroverted we are, fundamentally we need connection. That's what makes us human. And so that's also how it works in business, is that we also have to we have to make that connection with our customers, with our audience, especially when we are brand new business. Yes, you look at a Sephora or whatever, and they're massive brands, they're big brands. But what they don't tell you is when they first started as well, they also had to, connect. They had to find their audience almost individually and connect with them. I was listening to this another podcast, and it had the founders of Airbnb on, and they were talking about their first journey, and they were literally reaching out to renters on Craigslist, and trying to, and so it's that connection that I think we see ourselves from where we're starting, and we see the vision of where we want to be, which is this big brand, and we forget that there are actually, in the meantime, there are things that we have to do, connect with our audience and actually make sure that we're either solving a problem for them, or that we're helping them reach an aspiration. So either way, we're getting them to a result, to an after point. And I think that's the thing, like we very easily forget that that's what we're here to do as business owners, connect with our audience around the result that we're trying to get them there, and then therefore be able to sell. I'm going to use the word sell, but I don't mean in like the salesy way, but selling more in like that we're going to, I guess, arm them with what it is they need, which is our product, to be able to get them to that after point. So I think, and I think a lot of like that's not something that really gets spoken about a lot. What gets spoken about is like, yeah, just run some ads and your products will start selling, and that just doesn't. And I've spoken to a lot of e-commerce business owners, and running ads is not going to be the solution to your problems, especially when you have no audience. When you have no audience to start with, running ads is going to cost a lot of money for you to find get any results from. So that's kind of like the human connection side, is like, how do you show up for your audience? And I'm a big advocate for lives, for videos, for like actually showing your face, for telling your story, for being transparent and authentic, because that's what people buy. They don't, yes, they might come across you because of your product or thing they're selling that you're selling, but they're going to stay with you because of their relationship with you. That's fundamentally how we start as brand new businesses. And then tribe building is all about how do you start to when you look at people who start building a tribe and they're not in it because they're a business or they have something to sell. So you look at classic influencers and people who have just had something to share. They just wanted to share their story, their experiences with the world, and off the back of that they built a tribe. And when you can do that really well, like really successfully, then when they plug a product in, that's when you hear those success stories of like, oh, that product sold out in like, however long. It's because they've already built a tribe, right? Whereas I think with a lot of us businesses, we're going about it like kind of from the opposite end, where we've got something that we want to sell, and now it's like what I'm trying to tell all of definitely my clients is you need to build a tribe. And I don't mean build a tribe around your product. I don't mean build a tribe just being followers on your page. I mean build a true tribe where you are adding value to them and where they can add value to each other. And I think that's the piece that's missing, is because we sometimes see our Instagram page as, oh, aren't we building a tribe or building a community there? And it's like, well, kind of. You're building a following. You're having them potentially engage with you. It's like one way, one way engagement, but they're not able to actually engage with each other. And to build a community or to build a tribe, that's actually the key. That's the glue, right? Is like what makes them sticky, what gives them that intangible value that only you can provide, is when they can actually connect with other like-minded people around a common goal, thing, like results, which happens to be the tribe that you're building. And so what I actually really like Facebook groups for this, because it's right now the best and fully in my mind, the only platform where they not only can engage and communicate with you, but they can engage with each other. Yeah. And that intangible value, that further human connection that you're actually providing for them, that's actually what makes them even stickier to you and see you as the leader that they need to follow, that they need to engage with. So
it's not just this one-way thing of you talking to me or me talking back to you. It's that there are people around me, and even if I'm not saying anything, I can see a conversation going on, even if I'm lurking or something.
Exactly. And that's the power, and that's really, and then when we relate it to business and how does that actually help you, when people are having conversations and they're having conversations in your world, there is definitely without doubt going to be social proof that comes in that, right? Because people are going to, and I've seen this happen in some of our clients, in some of my clients' groups, is like, someone will post about the fact that they got their delivery or, product. And that's all they shared. It's just a photo of, the thing that they got. And then even under that, it's like all this social proof around, oh, I got that too. Isn't it great? Or I tried that. Oh, I need to try this. Like, do you recommend it? And there's this conversation that's happening among, like, you don't even have to be involved at that point. But there's this awesome conversation that happens around your thing. And that is such powerful advocacy. That's such powerful social proof that is actually what's going to continue to create your brand, to really have that snowball effect that really makes your brand blow up. So that's actually the part that I'm really excited about in building that community.
Yeah. But like, what happens? Like, I know lots of people just like you advocate for going lives and doing some videos just so you yourself, there is a person behind the brand, an actual human being behind it. So what happens if you're more the introverted type and you cannot do lives constantly because, well, that's exhausting. So what do you do then?
Because you're exhausted.
Yeah. It's like talking to people is exhausting.
Yeah, so look, there, like a live is one way of doing it, and I definitely advocate for that because, as you said, you want to show up for your audience, you want to show them, the face behind it. If for whatever reason, like a live is not possible, then how are other ways that you can show up for your audience? So things like, obviously posting like photos of yourself, of your life. Even if you could do a pre-recorded video like that, something like that could work, depending on, if you have the time or not. Doing sort of long form posts, almost blog-like, that actually gives the insight. So something that you were going to be going live about, but doing it in sort of long form way, like a blog post, a blog style post, could work. But like, there is nothing more powerful than a live, because when you can go live, then you have people that can interact with you, right? So they can like be commenting, they can be asking questions as you're actually live, and you can actually respond to them and have that conversation with them in real time. So there's actually nothing that can replace that as like in a powerful way, where, because the thing too is that when you can do that, they feel seen and heard, which is awesome, right? Like, because when you're live and you're on this platform and you're calling people out, you're like, oh yeah, Sarah, great question, this is the answer. Like, just them hearing their name like that makes it, it's like this thing again, as humans, like, we talk about like biopsychology about wanting to be seen, being heard, feel special. Like, that is just so powerful, that you can't really get in any other form. And so when I say going live, like, it doesn't have to be long. It can be 10 minutes, it can be 15 minutes, but I think that if you can make the commitment to show up for your audience, then the more that you can do that, the more that they'll show up for you. I'm a big believer in that. So, we just want to try to be consistent with that as much as possible.
So let's use an example. Let's say I am Abby, and Abby has just started a new e-commerce business selling, I don't know, flip-flops. Abby's selling something online. And so she's just starting out. She has like 0, and she knows she needs to connect with her audience. She needs to go live once in a while. She needs to post about herself to really show that humanness of her. But it doesn't change the fact that Abby starting out at 0 followers, 0 audience, 0 everything. So what does she do to build that audience?
Yeah, so I think this is where it comes into, I kind of touched on this a little bit with, like, you need to actually work out, have a hypothesis about who they are, right? So what is the thing that defines that audience for you? So who are the people who buy flip flops online, like, right? And then you have to go find them. Yeah, it could be, or it could be like travelers. It could, like, people who or like, college students, if because they usually have shared bathrooms and stuff, like maybe that, so whatever that yeah, I know, right? But, yeah, so whatever that is, like, you just have to have a hypothesis around who they are, and then where are they hanging out. And so a lot of times, Instagram and Facebook are always going to be the biggest platforms, because right now they have, like, over 2 billion people on there. And finding them in other groups, finding them via hashtag on Instagram, go out, find them, and then actually reach out to them. And this might seem like it's hella scary. I'm not going to like lie about that, just reaching out randomly to someone cold.
I saw flip flops.
But if you, sorry?
Like, just go like, hi, I saw flip flops.
Well, no. So we definitely don't want to be just dropping, we don't want to be spammy and just say like, here, buy this thing. But I think it's genuinely just about having a conversation, right? And just finding out what it is that, they're like, how do we lead that conversation to a point where we can find out, are they going to be a good buy? Like, are they actually in the market for flip-flops? Like, is this actually someone that we think could be a good customer of ours or a good buyer of ours? Or if they're not, then that's cool. You might maybe made a new friend, right? Which is awesome. But yeah, but either way, like really what a conversation is trying to do is to get to a point where you are honing in on, is this actually your audience? Like, you've made a hypothesis at the beginning that this is your audience. And a lot of people, I think, why they get frustrated about their business not taking off is because they've just assumed that this hypothesis is true, right? Like a hypothesis equals fact, which a lot of times is not actually the case.
Yeah.
A hypothesis is all that it is. It's a hypothesis. And so you need
Just
to,
making an
prove
assumption.
it.
You're not sure of it yet.
Exactly. And so all you're doing in these conversations is that you're finding ways to prove it or disprove it. So if you can prove it in the sense of like, yep, they're like, oh, I love flip-flops. Yes, send me send me that link, I want to buy it. Then awesome. Okay, then you've got more data points. You've got proof that this is your audience. Or alternatively, if they're just like, nah, our dorms are always super clean, I don't know, whatever, or like, I don't believe in flip-flops to go on the beach, or whatever it is, then it's kind of like, okay, you're starting to get these data points again that maybe this isn't your audience. So then what's another way that, how else can you test it? Now, this sounds like it does take a bit of time, I'm not going to lie, but when we get leads, like when we want to, go out and actually find the people that are going to be our buyers, we have to pay for them. We either pay for them with our time or with our money, right? Either way, we're paying for them. Yeah. And I know that a lot of new businesses don't have the money, don't have the funds to be, and when I say the money, I'm talking about like thousands of dollars that you're going to have to spend if you have no audience in ads just to find your audience with ads, right? You're going to have to spend thousands of dollars to do that. So if you don't have that money, then you're going to have to spend your time. You're going to have to pay with your time. And this is how you do it. You have to go out and you have to actually find them. Once you start getting them in and getting that ball rolling, and you're starting to build a little bit of audience, like 50 to 100 people, then putting ads, then putting money behind that becomes a lot more cost effective, because you actually have an audience. You actually know now what their interests are. You can build lookalike audiences of them. Like, it's that much more powerful when you actually have done the work up front to ensure that you have the right audience to target. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mostly like the part about having a clear idea of who they are so you can target them, because I tend to run lead ads, and I sort of target very specifically particular location, a particular employment, like work title.
Yep.
They have a particular phrase in their work title, a particular income level as well. So I tend to be very segmented. I also make sure that you are at least an admin in a Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
And you have your page, you're an admin. So yeah, I'm very specific on who exactly I want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
And just running a general ad on anybody, that tends to be very expensive, because one, you don't know if this is just like a passing interest of theirs, or if it's something that you can make recurring money from. You don't know if they've already purchased that stuff and so they're no longer interested in it. You don't know if they're looking for it for themselves or for somebody else. You don't know if they plan to actually buy something, or if they're just scrolling through things. So it helps to know who exactly you're targeting, the mindset they are in, and that they're actually going to put down money to buy stuff from you.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And it's kind of it's even more like, I'm guessing you target businesses, which is why you're targeting like the and that's like, like, to be honest, like, targeting businesses, because you have those things like, they're most likely going to be admin of groups and things like that, makes it a lot easier. Whereas when you think about when you're in an e-commerce business, and like literally you're probably like, anyone could, like, if you're selling flip-flops, like anyone could be my customer, right? Like, how do you target that?
Actually, I guess I can think of one. Like, I'm a big K-pop fan, and then at some point I had the idea of starting like a K-pop merch shop. Just
Okay. Yeah.
not because I want to start a business, but just so I wanted to find people who like a specific
Yeah.
group, so I can talk to you without feeling awkward.
Yeah, yeah. And see, like the great thing about that is like you might have, a business, and maybe you should do this, right? You might have an inkling of a business idea in mind. And rather than going ahead and just build that business, like why don't you just go ahead and build that community first? Just go and set up that group, start this, nerds alike, this community where you can feel completely safe to be totally geek out on K-pop. And then like once you find out what it is that they more and more want or are after, then you can actually build product, or like, start selling products. Like I would actually highly recommend that is the way that you should do it rather than, okay, well, I have my merch now and I need to sell it because I need to sell it.
Anybody
And
who
then
likes a pic related to this particular K-pop group, come back to me.
yeah. So maybe you should just go ahead and do that. Just go ahead and set up your
The hobby. It's gonna take so much time.
So I don't even remember what we were talking about, but
Audience, ads.
okay,
Don't spend money like that.
ads. Yeah. Oh, finding your audience. Yeah. So that's kind of why I say, like fundamentally, I always go back to you either need to, for any leads in any business, you need to pay with your time, pay with your money. If you have a lot of money, then awesome. Like go ahead, find out how to run ads. Yep, go do that. But if you don't have a lot of money, like again, a lot of new businesses, then you're gonna have to pay with your time. You're gonna have to find them. Just make sure that you dial in your audience, and then from there, then you can put money behind it in terms of ads. So that's my one big recommendation, my one big tip.
So like you have several businesses. You have the restaurant, you have the fashion, and now you're doing the coaching part. And so let's say let's do scenarios. One, I have the money to run the ad. Two, I don't have the money but I have the time. So I'm going to let's say use Instagram and find people who are the specific hashtag and then connect with them. How exactly do you connect with them without being a creep? Like, because I'm like human interaction. Most are like, hi Abby, block.
Yeah, and look, not everyone's going to be receptive to it. So, like everything else, it is a bit of a volume game. You're going to send out like 100 messages, let's say, and only 10 are going to get back to you, maybe. Like, but it's like everything, right? It's the same with ads. Like, ads are going to be surfaced to 100 people, but only like 10 of them are actually going to click on it. Yeah. Like, so with everything, it is a volume game. I think the hardest thing with organic outreach is that you feel a personal rejection sometimes. Like ads is easy because it's kind of like, well, I don't know who it's going to. I don't know who's not clicking on my ad. I don't know. Like you don't, yeah, like you don't see that, right? Whereas when you're doing organic outreach, like you've sent the message and they maybe seen it and are just like ghosting you or like just and that's okay. That's okay because again, they're not your buyers, or at least your initial buyers. They're not going to be your you might retarget them at some point once you have the money behind ads if they're still in your core audience, but they're just not going to be your fast moving buyers right now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's okay. That's totally okay. You really just want to be able to have conversations with people who are happy to have conversations with you and share with you, because really this is data, right? This is actually really valuable data that you're getting back from them. So in terms of like not sounding like a creep, it's just approach a conversation like you would like a normal human being, like a normal person.
What does a normal human being mean? I have like social anxiety, like, oh my god, what are they gonna say?
Yeah, like fine. Yeah, I mean, I think that the key to any kind of whatever conversation you're having, whether it's a sales conversation, whether it's a even a conversation with a friend, whether you're at a networking event, whatever conversation that you're having, it's always going to be based on building rapport. Like that is the one key that I think sometimes we sometimes forget, I feel. And what building rapport means is that you take away the fact that you're trying to get an outcome from it. Like take that away and just find a common ground that you can connect with this person And then from there, you just have a natural conversation to A, find out more about them, and then B, eventually maybe if the information you're finding out about them leads them down a path where they seem like a right vibe for you, then awesome. Then you can start to open that lane up or that pathway up. But really, you start a conversation, and I do sales calls, and the one thing that I've started going into sales calls with isn't necessarily to get a sale out of it, but it's just like the question I'm asking myself is more like, I wonder what this person's about. And once you start asking that question in your own mind, then it takes away the pressure, the expectation, and you just genuinely want to find out about them. And that's what building rapport is, right? It's just connecting on some common ground, and then you just want to find out more about them. And so really that's how we should be going into these conversations. And then if you get to a point where what you find out about them is that they love flip-flops and they can't get enough of them, and they're actually in the market for a new pair, then awesome. It's like, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but I actually sell them. Would it be of interest to you? Are you in the market for them right now? And if they're like, yeah, then awesome. Here's my link. I'm happy to answer any question, whatever. Or if they're not, then it's like, cool, okay. And then maybe you can even ask them, depending on what it is, like you could ask them why, you can get feedback, you can, all these things. But because you've built rapport up front, it's totally cool to then ask them these questions, get feedback, and it's such valuable data that we just don't sometimes bother with, because I don't know, we just think that we have all the answers when we when we start our business,
Oh, that makes I'm gonna try that. Okay, no, not really. I feel like I will try for one day. They'll be like, "Whoa, oh my god, all these interactions." No.
Yeah, it does. It's hard. It's one of the hardest things to get going with. But I can guarantee you that once you get started and you get into it, it's like exercising any muscle, right? This is a brand new thing that you're trying to build, and right now it's like absolutely useless, and it's scared, and you don't want to spend it's tired and it's exhausted, and you don't want all those things. But exactly,
when you're just starting out, the idea of talking to someone that you want to connect with but they don't know who you are, that is kind of intimidating.
Mm.
It is because I remember in January, the new year. I remember late last year, my goal was to talk to roughly 10 women, not to sell them anything, but just so I could tell myself, hey, I have talked to 10 women I've never spoken with. And I remember praying that cancel on me. It was quite exhausting. It was just 15 minutes, but I was like, even before this call, I kept checking. And she canceled? No. Damn it! Sometimes it's really exhausting. Once they get going, it's fine. But before that, I'm it's not cancelled yet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk to somebody right now. Talking to someone sometimes is intimidating, even if you don't really have you're not introverted or have a social anxiety thing. It's still a bit intimidating because you're like, what if they ignore me? What if they mark me as spam? What if they this? What if they that? And that just gets at least me anxious.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes and I totally understand, because I'm the same way. I'm not gonna lie. I talk about this I do it all the time, and I do, but it took me a while. It was a massive process, and part of that was because I kept talking myself out of it. And the one thing that I've learned is that sometimes the anticipation or how we frame it in our minds makes us do things that we don't that we think that we don't want to do. So it's almost what I'm trying to say is that we just need to always constantly be reframing or put a new meaning on the things that so I know that you're again oh, I hope she cancels. I just don't have I don't have but it's how do you reframe that in your mind to be again, it's kind of like the same thing when I go into a sales conversation. It's like, I just want to know what this person's about, right? And so that opens me up to being like, there's no expectation on this. I'm not gonna be salesy or awkward or spammy or pushy, because I'm like, I just want to know what you're about, and if I can help you, awesome. If I can't, then that's also cool. And so it's almost like reframing that whole like, oh, can I, I'm tired, can I be bothered, like, to, hey, I wonder, what's something that I can learn, what's something new that, maybe I can meet a new friend, like, again, I wonder what this person's about, like, how can you almost like rethink that. And I know that it's like exhausting, because I get it, I'm an introvert, so I'm like, I have to almost make myself do these things to like connect with people. But it's also the work that I had to go through, right, to like break myself from that pattern of, like talking myself out of these things, of building the anticipation up until it was like a lot bigger than the actual actor. Because we're conversing now and it's totally fine, right? Like,
like once I get started, it's fine. Just before it, I'm like, whoa, all right,
yeah,
we're still on.
yeah.
Do this.
But yes, it's always the anticipation. It's the same with working out. Like, before I go for a run, I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up. I don't want to like get dressed. I don't want to. But then once you do that and you get out, it's fine. You're like, I'm fine going on a run.
Speaking of going for a run, I've been planning to go for a run for the past 4 years. It's not happened yet. Instead, I'm like, you're gonna tell me, I'm gonna wake up in the morning, change into sport clothes, climb down the stairs, start running, get sweaty, start breathing heavy, run back home, climb up the stairs. Oh my God, all that's work. Let's move on.
But see how the anticipation, it's more the anticipation of that's like, it's building in your mind. But I bet you that if you just did it, like, if you didn't even think about it, you just like, okay, I'm just gonna put the clothes on, I'm just gonna get started. Like,
I think I want to like get dressed to run. Like, I'm right now. I could be sleeping right now.
Yeah, it's always the way. The anticipation is always going to be bigger in our minds than the actual thing, the actual act of doing it.
Like, was the restaurant the first business you created?
Yeah, so the dessert bar. So it's called the Choc Pot. It's a dessert bar. So I am a big lover of dessert. The Choc Pot.
Oh.
The Choc Pot. Choc for chocolate. It's short for chocolate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, my boyfriend, my now husband, loved, he was actually studying medicine at the time, and he was hating it, but he loved cooking and baking. And I was like, and I love my dessert, so he was like practicing, he's just baking a lot, and then we just decided, why not give it a go. At the time, I was still working in corporate, and I think I decided, even before we made the decision to actually open that business, that first business, I had decided that that corporate wasn't going to be the thing for me. I kind of was fortunate enough, early on in my career to be in to work on pretty big projects that, gave me visibility all the way up to the CEO of the bank. I was working in an investment bank, and I think, just seeing like the politicking, the back channeling, like everything that happens, like the person you have to become to get to those levels, I was like, that's just not for me. So I think I decided early on in my career that corporate wasn't going to be it. My boyfriend then was like hating studying medicine, so we're like, okay, well, I can
relate. I hate my course, but I just dropped out of it, like bounce.
Yeah. Totally. So yeah, so that's kind of how we started, and then from there it's been a crazy journey. Lots of big ups and lots of big downs as well. So yeah, so I don't know if there's anything specific you wanted to learn about my journey there, but
what was your first e-commerce business?
So it was in fashion, and then right now we have one. Sorry?
Like from desserts to fashion.
Well, desserts to burgers to to fashion, and then now to skincare. So we now have a skincare brand that we're growing, and it's actually, we decided to start the skincare brand in line with our clients, because we were like, let's like try, test and fail all of these, new like marketing techniques before our clients do, so that we can then sort of obviously give them the things that work, and not the things that don't. So we actually started Make It Skincare for that reason, and we actually also are kind of documenting our journey through our own podcast. And so the podcast is all about almost real time, the things that we're trying and testing, and the things that we're learning, even the mindset, things that issues,
I guess.
Yeah. So it's like, so that's kind of we started that podcast to do that as well. So yeah.
For the fashion business, the first e-commerce, how was it like growing that audience? Because you had an audience for desserts, you had an audience for burgers, you had no audience for fashion. So how was growing that audience?
Yeah.
Like, it was like a massive leap.
Yeah, and it was actually really funny, because what we did for that business was we actually started it in Sydney. So when I was still in Sydney, so we moved over to New York about 18 months ago. So we actually started in Sydney, and then we decided to make the move, and we're like, okay, this is going to work awesomely in New York, right? And there was a bit of tech behind it as well, so it wasn't just a simple e-commerce store. It was actually, there was the whole idea around it was going to be there was going to be a heavy element of personalization to it, so that you didn't have to like trawl through hundreds of pages to find the thing that you like. We would be triangulating based on like your style preferences, your body shape, things like that. And so in Sydney, it was kind of a little bit easier, because we had friends and family that we could reach out to, colleagues, people who were in our target market, that we could start to have tests, give feedback. Yeah. And so that was going that was actually going pretty well in Sydney. And then we were like, okay, well, Australia's a very small market. Let's like go to the States and see if we can really build it there. And so what we actually did was we literally hit the ground. So we were thinking that our audiences were either going to be like college students or corporates. So we were kind of, that was our hypothesis, right? They'd either be sort of, yeah. So we were like, hey, let's test it with both. So we actually went to Columbia campus, to NYU, and we would just like randomly, and talk about the anticipation, right? Like randomly just go up to a stranger and be like, hey, we're testing this thing. Like,
wow,
would you be happy to have a chat to us about it? Yeah. And this is what I mean, right? Like, like it's a big deal to do the first few, but then once you kind of get into a habit, into a role with it, it's actually not that big a deal. The worst they can say is, no, I don't have time. It's like, okay, cool, awesome.
I had
to. So yeah, so we'd actually have like quite in depth get feedback. And then we did the same with sort of some corporate people. That one we had like a couple of people that we knew also similarly had moved from Sydney, and then they put us in touch with other people, and that's kind of how that community, that audience built up. But yeah, so then we did the same thing where we were speaking to them about their problems, like and the solution, and whether it would help solve for it. So that's kind of like, so we literally like hit the ground running to build our audience from that perspective. And then so yeah, so that's, I mean, it's this is kind of like, I think people talk about the hustle of like starting a new business, and like this is kind of the stuff. This is the hustle. There's a reason why it's not easy.
Like, I wouldn't talk to anybody physically, and if I was in the school and you came to me, I would just turn around like, nope, did that see you? Nope. And that's fine. Because like somebody I don't know is talking to me right now, and I have to interact with you and like converse.
Yeah. Imagine that. Imagine having a conversation with someone.
Yeah, like a random, like, stranger, stay away from me. I don't know you. Like, kidnap me.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing, right? Like, so many times we project our own thoughts and feelings onto everyone else, right? Like, just because you feel a certain way, you therefore think that everyone else feels that way. And I think you know, logically, you know that that's not true, right? You know that not everyone thinks and
You love
feels
me. So you probably
like,
gonna react the same way I will.
right? Like that's the thing. We project our own assumptions, our own thoughts, our own feelings onto other people, and that's not the case. We are not the center of anyone else's universe, by the way. Like we are, you know, and I think that what that means when you do that is that you're actually not serving, like, put yourself aside, but you're actually not serving them, right? Because they might really need the thing that you have. They might really need it, but unless you actually bring in front of, like, put in front of them, they won't know that you're
Yeah,
they
they
need
can't
right from.
read your mind. They're not mind readers. You know all about your stuff because you're so close to it. Somebody else has no idea about the intricacies of
Exactly,
what you do. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so by projecting what you think, feel, you know, say or do onto other people, you're actually not serving them because you're yeah you're not allowing them to get the result that they're after, that you could be providing
You're doing your best.
them.
Okay, now I have two questions. So the first question is this: when you're just starting out and you don't have um, this detailed specification, let's call it that, of who your target audience is. You don't know, like maybe you just know they're women and perhaps they're in this age group, or maybe your business is in a localized place, so you know they're in this specific location, and
Mhm.
you've decided to use social media to sort of do the initial prospecting, get some feedback, and then refine that target audience a bit more. How do you do that in social media? Because let's say you do it through Facebook, through groups. When you message someone, it's gonna go to requests, so they're not gonna see it
Mm.
anyway. Same with Instagram, there unless you like comment in there. So how do you do
Mm.
that initial prospecting when, once again, you're not particularly sure that this is your particular target audience? You still have the broad idea, you want to niche it down, but you're not quite sure how. So how do you do that
Mm.
prospecting?
Yeah, so there's all sorts of ways to do it. I think the first thing is that you want to be engaging with them in some way. So for example, if we talk about Instagram, then you know you want to, and again, because everything's built on rapport, so you want to make sure that you know a little bit about that person. So go through their feed, you know, comment on some, and like engage with some, like some, and don't do that whole like, oh, just the last 3 posts, I'm just gonna like it, and then you know, like, you know, you want to be authentic about it, and then you know, and then from there, you know, you follow each other, and then once you follow each other, then you know, like you go into the primary. Um, if you know, people who want the shortcut way, is that you can actually just, if you just reply to their story, then you go straight into their primary inbox. So
You ask them in your story.
yeah, so you just reply. So if you see their stories that they might have going, and you actually, because you know, in a story you can actually like send a message or a response.
Your
The
inbox.
story, yeah, that goes straight into their primary. So that's a bit of a hack, you know, for Instagram. And then from a Facebook perspective, it's the same thing, right? Like you're in the same group. You know, either you comment or engage in the same post as someone else's post, or you create your own post, and you see who's engaging or commenting on that. And then you know that those are the people who are, you know, you have something in common with. So then, so you know, again, if you can, you want to friend request them, because when you're friends, and you can send DMs to them and they'll see it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, another hack is like you actually move the conversation that you've been having in the group into the DM. So you actually let them know and be like I'd love to have a chat to you more about this. And then I'll DM you. Or is it okay if I DM you? Right? Ask them the question. At least then they're looking out for it. And usually if you've had a conversation, then in the group, then they're happy to have that over in the DM. Um, so there's a whole host of ways that you can do it. But those are a couple of big ones, I would say.
Second question. So let's say I have an e-commerce idea, and you know how you had said build the audience first for my K-pop idea, which is a hobby.
Yeah.
I shall try that someday. So let's say I'm in that box where I want to build an audience before I actually start the business, or in box 2, I've already started the business and I have no audience, so I want to slowly grow that. How do you and how does Growth Boss actually help people in both boxes?
Oh, so so we actually have clients in both boxes. So how Growth Boss works is like we have a whole like step-by-step structured system. So everything that I've spoken to you, we actually like break down into these are the types of posts that you can do. This is how like literally step by step with all the tools and templates and everything that goes along with it. And we span everything from organic outreach, but also to ads, also to things like Pinterest, SEO, even website, doing your website audit. Like it's a whole marketing, your whole marketing ecosystem that we actually help build out. But in terms of like how we get started, it's the strategy is actually the same. It's just where you are, or what phase of business you're in. So our whole strategy is that there's like, if you think about a funnel, right? Top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Bottom of funnel is kind of like your website. It's the thing that is going to actually make the sales. It's the thing that needs to convert people. Top of funnel is like all of the channels that you could get new people in. And the middle of the funnel is actually where I think a lot of people don't spend a lot of time, but that's what we recommend building out first. And this is your Facebook group, so your tribe, and also your email database is what we think of as a middle of the funnel. So we have a full strategy and structure around how to do that. And something called the live conversion method as well, about how you actually go live in a way that converts people. So in your group. So we usually start there, and it doesn't matter if you have an existing business or a new business. That's the place that we start, and then from there we build out. So if you have an existing business, so you're getting some traffic to your website, to your store, but you're not actually converting them. Then we go, okay, let's start bottom of funnel, and then we build our way up. If you have a brand new business, you don't really have traffic to your store. It doesn't really make sense to focus on the bottom of funnel right now. Let's start at the top and getting people in. So it's really just about going where, depending on where you are with your business, we'll actually recommend where it is that you focus your efforts on in the first stage.
And like, how does one start that process? Is there like I join the group first, or is there like a book a complimentary call, or how does someone actually work with you, or like?
Yeah. So you can definitely book a call with me. So you can email me or DM me, and I'm happy to have a chat about what we do in more detail. But also the other best way, because I actually go through in a lot more detail than our 1 hour conversation, I go into a lot more detail about our overall strategy, and I do that in a free 3-day challenge. So it's called the Call to Converted Challenge. It's across 3 days, and I go into a lot more depth about what we actually like, the strategy behind what we do. It's the roadmap that our growth bosses follow. So I'm definitely happy to share that link with you as well, Abby. www.thegrowthboss.com/challenge. But maybe I'll drop it in the chat.
Yeah, please send me the link, so I will include it in the description as well.
Yeah, awesome. So if people want to jump on there, and then they get to know me a little bit better, they get to they get to see. I also do weekly live training, so they get to get a lot more knowledge around how to build and grow their e-commerce business. Then definitely feel free to sign up for
that. I thought of doing a weekly live, but I'm just gonna put that down to monthly live and see how it goes from there. Weekly already sounds kind of exhausting, like every single week for how long? Rest of my life.
And the great thing is it's all about baby steps, right? So start monthly, then start maybe every bi-weekly, and then maybe go to weekly, whatever works.
Let's try the monthly one. And so are there any misconceptions people have about growing your audience or starting an e-commerce business that you've seen?
Oh, the big one is, and that's why I think I'm so passionate about this topic, is the big one is that ads is going to be the silver bullet, right? Ads, like people come to me and they're like, oh, I've been running ads, like, but I've kind of built it's kind of helped to build followers, but no conversions. And I'm like, well,
Why
I think
did
there's a
you
reason
run
why.
ads for followers in the first place? Like, wow, who does that? Just run a lead ad and just grow your, like a lead ad that goes to your lead magnets, and then put that into use that start a conversation. That's not
Yeah.
cheap for that to be. Yeah, people.
So yeah, so I think that's a big thing. It's kind of like people just think, it's easy to run an e-commerce business. You just, as I said, you just put up a website and run ads and
One product
money in the door.
over and over and over again.
So yeah, so that's definitely the biggest misconception I think that I've definitely come across in this industry. For sure.
And as what of the misconception that you had initially that now you no longer have that view? Like, go and tell us.
Yeah, like I think, yeah, it's definitely build it and they will come. So when I started,
So
the first business,
it's online. They will find it somehow.
yeah, exactly. Or like, obviously my product is just amazing. People are just going to magically find out about also how amazing it is, and my doors are going to be broken down with all the people flooding in.
Nice. Not even an ant can go through your door.
So yeah, I mean, have you had a similar experience as well?
Yeah, on the other side, because I have a little social anxiety, so I don't want to talk to you all the time. Or start talking, I'm fine. Before we start talking, I'm probably gonna like just spray cancel at me. I started my first business, and then I did not do any sales call because it's very exhausting, and I don't really think I have the emotional strength to sustain a call beyond 5 minutes. And even then, I'll be like, okay. At some point, I'll just start going, okay, yes, like nudging me to end this call. So I didn't do any of that. I had done mostly use LinkedIn. That way, I could just like automate it and move on with my life. Just like do your thing. Yeah. But I just like the keep up thing. I like the idea of it. It's a hobby, but I did not like consider the actual business aspect of it, like following up with people after I send that message, or if they reply, I reply like 2 weeks after because I'm like, I have to reply to you. Oh my head. I really take it that seriously. But then I had to realize that just because you like something as a hobby doesn't really mean you're going to commit to it as a business. And just because you're a great client don't automatically make you a great business owner. And just because you've interacted with several businesses and you sort of get how the business works on the other hand, doesn't mean you're capable of running an actual business with everything it entails. So I have to like calm down and like, it's enough for me. It's like the humanness of it is too much.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, my own experience was more like, when we opened our first business, the dessert bar, and it was like bricks and mortar. So we had to pay rent, we had to pay wages, like it was, but we, in the lead up, it was like, we were like, there is literally no other place that's going to be like this. Like we knew in our minds, like how good our product was. We knew how good our experience was going to be. We knew all these things. So for some reason in my mind, that translated to therefore everyone else knowing about it. And so then putting in that effort to put yourself out there, to do marketing, to do sales. Like I was like, why? Like, what do you mean? Like, how aren't people finding out about us? So I think that's definitely been my biggest misconception. And from there, every new business, it's like going in with the mindset of like, to your point, right? There's the business part of it that is going to be all around marketing and sales. Because if you don't do that, then you don't have a business. Like if you don't have sales, you don't have a business, right? So I think that's that's a big one that I don't think people realize. Like I think they go into it to your point, like they love hobby, they love crafting, they love whatever it is, and they just are like, well, I like it enough, so it's easy to sell it, right? Like, yeah, it's just easy. Yeah, it's easy, and it's like. It's actually not. It's really not. Otherwise, as I said, we'd all be millionaires. We'd all be rich, and it's just.
I'm seeing the money right now. I'll just see the money. You're fun to talk to. Even though I prayed for it to cancel initially. Like, you did not.
I'll know for next time. I'll know for next time. Always cancel. You'll be happy.
Is there any question I should have asked? Because I know we've chatted a lot, and maybe there's a question that I've not asked. Is there anything you wish I had touched upon?
No, I think we covered quite a lot actually.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, you did. You did very well to continue to keep this conversation going. But like, thank you for this was a fun chat. So
It's like an hour chatting and laughing, and I'm
Yeah.
good at this. So it was so nice having you on. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.